write good books. What they say about the world is exactly what it is. But they don't have no solutions. So Michelle Alexander is going back into spiritualism, trying to find out what to do, right? Christopher Hedges and the man that had a scarf on his neck. They was talking the other night. We were going to talk about revolution, and they mentioned a few words, and they stayed on the problem. Remember Jesse Jackson there? All the Negro speakers and lecturers in the late 70s and 80s focused on the problem. Never on the solution. Right? Never on where we want to go. They specialized. They got paid. Jesse got paid $1 zillion. Oh, here come Jesse. Coca-Cola or something. And he played that role to the hilt. He got all that money for himself, him and his Rainbow Coalition. Well, he's the Rainbow himself. Right?
And he stole that.
That's what I'm saying, yeah. This is unbelievable.
I remember my parents taking, he had something called Operation Breadbasket.
Mm-hmm. Operation Breadbasket.
Right.
Yeah. That's what he had.
Before that.
Yeah. Operation Push, Operation Breadbasket. Well, he was wandering in the wilderness. Expert. One who has achieved a certain grade of, what's this? Okay. Having or displaying great skill, dexterity, or knowledge as a result of experience. Again, having or displayed great skill, dexterity, or knowledge as a result of experience. If you've had the whole Zionist media and American media trying to finish you off and building up the other people, right? All the other people. See, nobody, you look at all the Muslims, we're the only one on the outside looking in. That's a wonderful place to be. Why? We wouldn't want to be in there sitting up with them bums. Who would want to be with them? They in there kissing boss man's behind. They in there non-productive. And remember, this subject is on sabr, it's on patience. We always said 95% of ability is stickability, the ability to hold on. That's sabr. Over what amount of time? Long period of time. Remember we was telling you we studied Chairman Mao? In the 60s, you'd have to study Chairman Mao. I'll read some of the subjects, just a few. When they gave me this book in Algeria, Pete O'Neill, he had took over when Eldridge Cleaver had stepped down. This is about 71. He said, "Did you read that book I gave you? It's 4 volumes." I said, "Yeah." He said, "What do you think about it?" I said, "That's an ordinary street game. This book, we'd already been tussling with the white man for years in Oakland. And we had all of this, it was just in political language." I said, "Yeah, it's ordinary street game." Those are exactly the words that I said. So get organized. This is the early years, Communist Party, starting way back in the 20s. It has all kind of civil war in China on correcting mistaken ideas in the party. That means it's like convergence error, correcting mistaken ideas. So that means there's whole little books, the little red books that they had on each one of these subjects. On disregard of organizational discipline. Pay attention to economic work. But up here it gets kind of good. Be concerned with well-being of the masses. Pay attention to the methods of work. On tactics against Japanese imperialism. Characteristics of the present political situation. National United Front, the People's Republic, international support. Those are normal things that you have to do. They came up with a solution psychologically. They said Japan is a small country that's tough, organized. China is a big country that's weak. So it said Japan is a small country, but they're strong. China is a big country, but it's weak. So what type of warfare? Did it confront the Japanese? Very seldom. It used guerrilla warfare. And since all the people was Chinese, they would have water backed up here, and all of a sudden, if the Japanese was out in a certain area trying to attack, they'd have small little dams about 4 or 5 feet high. They'd cut them dams, and they would flood for 20 and 30 miles. They would flood the Japanese, and they got all that heavy cannons, and they can't go anywhere. Guerrilla warfare. So, scorched policy. The Chinese took all their industry and moved it to a place called Chongqing. They moved everything there. That's why? Because they had hills, and they had mountains, and they had caves. And they put whole factories in those areas. And the Japanese couldn't bomb them. And then they needed to get there. So, I don't know if you ever heard of the Burma Road. The Burma Road. It was big in World War II. I'm sure I'm age. But anyway, they built from Burma to China. Can you look up Burma Road in on you, if anybody? Yeah, anyway, Burma Road.
Imam,
Yes.
when you mentioned Chongqing, was, back in the 70s, they had that food.
That food, Chongqing.
Okay.
Yeah. But Chongqing was the capital of China. All of those stuff was okay, let's speed up. Now, the problems of strategy in China's Revolutionary War. How to study war. The laws of war are developmental. The aim of war is to eliminate war. Strategy is the study of the laws of a war situation as a whole. The important thing is to be good at learning. Then it goes down, China's Revolutionary War, the importance of the subject. What are the characteristics of China's Revolutionary War? Our strategy and tactics ensuing from these characteristics. Let's go at the laws of war are developmental. So you have to study the laws of war in general. When you study the laws of war, you'll find that some people are good, they're paperwork generals, they can write, and some people are not as well educated, but they can fight real good. They are natural strategists, natural organizers. And when they get evolved to that position, they kick in like that. Okay? So when you study the laws of war, there are certain things that a commander has to have. A certain amount of bravery, not stupidity, not just running off fighting anybody, but he has to be brave. If a certain situation evolves, he has to be brave enough to take advantage of that situation. Okay. The aim of war is to eliminate war, we know that. Strategy is a study of war in all situations. The important thing is to be good at learning. Okay. Remember, what did they have? Something, just a second, let me pull up one of the things. They had popped open for us. Yeah, here it is. Remember that book, that big book they had, War in the Shadows, the Guerrilla in History? That big, thick book? It is a beautiful, detailed history of all guerrilla warfare in history, from the Peloponnesian War, stuff you ain't never even heard of, but a detailed war. In that book, there's 2 or 3 pages on William Wallace. Remember in Scotland, Braveheart? Do you know that book? In 3 pages, it gives exactly what you saw on the movie about William Wallace. You know. So that was a guerrilla war they was fighting. Not as much direct confrontational, but they would hit the people, and they had different tactics. Remember when they showed a picture of a lot of tall trees, and then they said, oh, okay. So that was the first time in war they used the pike. Those long poles, because remember the horses come charging, and they had them long pikes sharpened, and all they do is let them get close and pull them up. Them big pikes, man, go right into the horse and knock them guys down. And remember, some of the knights in the old days wore armor. If you got knocked off the horse, you were just there. You couldn't do nothing, right? So they had to study the laws of war. Okay, they put this book on my desk because they wanted us to study physical guerrilla warfare and apply physical guerrilla warfare in the United States. It wasn't going to get close to working. It would have been insanity. So what did we do? We combined everything. Here's one. Sports psychology. From theory to practice. We study sports, what make good sports people. What does training do? You know what I mean? What do they do when you get a group so well trained that they cranking like, the best coaches say, okay boys, go out and have fun. You already got this game down. Now go back to something you used to do in sports. You had fun. So what is a team going to do when they're having fun? They're going to play 5 and 10 times better than when we got to win. We got to win. The guy's going to stretch longer, right? He's going to catch a ball that couldn't be caught. Why? Because he's having fun. He's grinning trying to catch the ball, right? He ain't that, boys, I got to catch this ball. I got to catch this ball. Why? Because when you're having fun, what? Kids out there are playing in the snow. Blue. You ever see them? They turn in blue. They're having fun. You and I won't do it because it's cold. And it ain't fun to us anymore. Right? Man, I'm not staying out here cold. You have to bring the kids in, sliding down them hills. And they're freezing cold, but they're having fun. Right? So we study all these things. This is what Boss Man didn't expect. Remember, this war we're fighting is comprehensive. It's inclusive. You got to get inspiration from everywhere. That's why this new bug going around, they didn't see all the way. If they popped that bug themselves, hey, China done already solved this problem. China built 8 or 9 hospitals. I don't know how they did that.
In less than a week.
They just popped them up, boop, prefab, okay, everybody's there ready to go. And America haven't built 1 hospital in months. and they short on everything. So, again, China done proven wrong. But economically, what's happening with this stopping in production, all this is worldwide, and it's just starting to get going. People are being trained how to freeze and stop having activity without panicking. The world don't know it. The world didn't know why the Shias was going 20 million, 25 million, some even said 30 million, to Najaf and Karbala, remember? We told them right here. We said they're getting ready for something. They don't know they're getting ready. The white man don't know they're getting ready. That's the difference from us. We watching everybody. And so far, look, on the most, tell the truth, if I'm lying, I believe I'm flying. Have we been accurate on what we've been talking about here? Not only talking, but implementing. This psychological guerrilla warfare has been, it worked 1,000%. We're not closing the door on that, but we're moving now into writing our own book, teaching our own thoughts. Everything that's happened to us is going to be just like Chairman Mao did. He wrote it all down. He implemented. See, this is a book of implementation. Study the laws of war, be good at learning, right? So, when he was in the hills of China in 1934, the Long March, I don't know if y'all ever heard of that. The Long March. Can you imagine? We can't even imagine the Long March, what it was. The Long March was 7,200 leagues, something like, imagine a battle, a defensive battle, from D.C. to San Francisco and back to D.C., 6,000 miles. Always under attack by the enemy. The enemy ain't giving you no rest. You start in the swamps, before you know it, you got summer uniforms up in the freezing mountains, and back to the swamps again, through forest, and everywhere they went, they called it a seeding machine. They was doing dawah. They was doing dawah. And they was calling the rest of the people in China, when that march was over, the Chinese Communist Party was intact, and it's still at today. We just got to get them to do a couple of things, leave the Muslims alone. In fact, build universities in the Muslims area. Don't let the Saudis scare you about the Uyghurs, because the Muslims in China are like the Muslims everywhere. If you leave them alone, they just want to go about their business. But Saudi Arabia scared them with the 4 or 5 Uyghurs they had down in Guantanamo and all that whistleblowing. They made the Chinese think that, hey, we got a rebellion going on inside of our thing. And they sent all them agents there, and all the agents was telling them what they already believed. Yeah, we got a revolution. They ain't got no revolution going on in there. And if China want to be smart, they're doing a lot of good stuff. All they got to do is be kind to the Muslims inside of China and win the 1.5 billion Muslims to their side. Oh, we'll be on the same team. If they don't, they're going to lose all the Muslims. Anyway, we'll speed up. So our strategy and tactics ensuing from the characteristics of the war, your tactics and strategy emerge out of your environmental circumstances. Nobody ever had a psychological guerrilla warfare in the United States. Nobody. Nobody ever even thought of it. You know, just think, what was a brother down in Carolina in 1837? There was a movie about it, that chopping up the white folks. Nat Turner. Oh, Nat Turner. Remember, They gave him the Bible and taught him how to teach it. He said, what are these other books? You don't need those books. All you need is the Bible. But he didn't read the Bible correctly. You know why? Because the Bible had strategic tactics in it. If he was reading the Bible right, he would have never went down to the armory, to hit the armory. He just went on across the country to the west, where the Indians are, and raid all the way. Take his people, and they go, because they can't keep up with him, they raid all the people all the way till they get to the west. And they establish in the west, or across the Mississippi, or even in those days, on this side of the Mississippi, what was called Indian Territory, and have all the slaves run there, escaped slaves run there, instead of running to Florida, to Spanish territory, right? But he didn't know. He had no idea, right? And he didn't have time to study either. He got mad and cut off a few people's heads and got busy, and it didn't last long. That's the thing about longevity. Longevity is serious business. Remember what we said, what we're going to do. All this we've said it 100 times. We were going to be archivists. I mean, we're going to archive this whole, we're going to study this. See, if people just come by, they'll think, man, that nigga, those niggas are just talking, we studied this. We're doing exactly what we laid out we would do. We'd be archivists. The archives on movement at this time, right? The archives of the movement, we would have them in our hand. They would, by the time we start writing on it, they would already be out in lectures. All of this stuff is already out. All the stuff we're going to take it to another level right now. Or we are, but it's already out. Documentalists. Documented. We got all this stuff. When we moved our stuff, that stuff yesterday, it was so many documents from I don't know when that you can't even bring them all. But it's documented. It's flyers. We wrote on the back of the old flyers. It's documented. Chronicler, chronicles. Historians, but then we have two other words here. Educator and trainer. Educator and trainer.